Hi everyone, welcome to the Whiteleyverse with me, Connor Whiteley, for another daily short story. Now, before I start today's story, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you want to buy this short story and any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers and at your local bookstore and local library if you requested, and you can order paperback copies from Amazon. Now, here's today's short story. I hope you enjoyed just as much as I did writing it.
An old way to go. Finding bodies is critical. Kendra O'Connor, retired detective, loved being a part of the task force of retired detectives that investigated London's weirdest, strangest and hardest cold cases, but even she wasn't expecting this one. As Kendra went into the ancient London hotel, she started to cough at the horrible musty smell in the air and all the dust she had kicked up. The hotel lobby, at least she thought this was a lobby, was ancient with massive planks of wood hanging off walls, dust covering the posh leather seats, and everything was horrible compared to its former self. The hotel lobby might have looked great once with its leather furniture, posh wall art and fancy marble flooring, but now it looked so derelict, so old, so horrible. Kendra didn't want to be in here, but her new best friends retired detective Jeff Long and Patricia Nelson wanted to meet her here. And judging by the cold case files Jeff had sent Kendra last night, it was clear they weren't going to explore this hotel for fun. As much as Kendra wanted to leave, there was a strange atmosphere to the hotel. The hotel might have felt old, abandoned and unloved, but there was something else about it. It was like the hotel still had a bit of life in, like something or someone was keeping it on life support for some reason. Kendra had no idea why it was still standing because the hotel was on profitable land that local London developers wanted to use up, but according to the case file last night, the Met Police had blocked any orders to tear down the hotel for some reason. As Kendra listened to the popping, humming and banging of the traffic outside, she started to wonder what this place could have once been with the road so close. The hotel could have had most of the traffic, so it had to be popular, but Kendra had never heard of it before. "Hi, hun," a 70-something woman said with only gray hair. Kendra gave Patricia a quick hug, but it was strange to see her in casual clothes that she clearly wouldn't mind getting dirty in. "Hi you too," Jeff said, wearing his black jogging bottoms, hoodie and trainers. He looked like a cat burglar, more than an honorable leader of a cold case task force. But the large black rucksack he was carrying caught Kendra's eye. That was strange for him. "Why are we here?" Kendra asked. "Oh, you're like this one," Jeff said. "There's a 20-year-old murder case from 2001. A young man was murdered. The police caught the killer and charged and tried them." Kendra nodded as she moved some of the broken wood on the floor with her foot. "The killer was found guilty, but the real kicker is the killer is trying to get out now on grounds we never found the body," Jeff said. Kendra gestured to the ruined hotel around them. "And you think the body is here? And why's it a cold case?" Patricia tapped Kendra on the arm. "'Cause lots of officers don't believe the killer did it. They were framed by cops. So it remained open." Kendra went deeper into the hotel, trying to not let the musty, damp smell of everything overwhelm her. After walking away from the main entrance, she found an old set of stairs, pointed at them and looked back at the others. It was fairly clear if there was going to be a body here, it would never be hidden in the lobby that was far too obvious and far too uncontrolled for the killer. As Kendra, Patricia and Jeff went up the stairs, Kendra gripped the handrail tight and just hoped after decades of woodworm the stairs wouldn't collapse. "Why this hotel?" Kendra asked. "Because 20-year-old surveillance photos show the killer visiting this hotel every day after the killing," Jeff said. "That's not a lot to go on," Kendra said. "Sure, but the photos also showed the killer carrying something heavy into the hotel. He never left with it. Officers never found the heavy thing again," Jeff said. Kendra nodded. She could understand why the officers might find that odd, And it was strange for someone to take something into an abandoned hotel and leave it there. But surely the officers could have seen if it was big enough or in the right shape to hold a body? When they all got to the first floor, which at their age took some time, Kendra frowned as she stared down at the barely lit corridor with cobwebs, mice poo, and chunks of debris littering the entire place. It was disgusting, and this hotel was clearly a health hazard. "How do you want to divide this up?" Kendra asked. "Room by room or something more targeted?" Jeff passed each of them a small, powerful flashlight out of his black rucksack, and Kendra turned hers on. She was horrified to see how bad the mice poo problem actually was. "Don't point your flashlight too far down," Kendra said firmly. The other two nodded. "Kendra, you read those court transcripts I sent over?" Jeff said. Kendra clicked her fingers. Of course, the killer said something about the answer to all the problems was in the 104 or 109 or 110. Then Kendra shone her flashlight at the door of the first hotel room on her left. The door might have been covered in black stuff and stripped bare of paint by the rain, but Kendra was impressed how the room number was still clearly visible after so long. It read 101. Patricia pointed to the room on the right. "This is 199, hun. So the rooms loop around." Jeff nodded and counted 3 rooms down from the one Kendra had pointed to. It read 104, and he tried to open it. It didn't move. Jeff kicked down the door. Kendra gagged as the corridor was filled with the smell of rot, damp and dying bodies, and a few spiders ran out. But when Jeff popped in, he came back out a few seconds later, frowning. "That's old. That's horrible. That's foul," he said. "Any bodies?" Kendra asked. "Only dead rats." Kendra shuddered. She hated spiders, rats, and mice. There was something so strange and useless about them. They were horrible creatures, and Kendra just wanted to leave, but she had to find out the truth. If the killer was guilty, then she couldn't let her fears of mice stop her from finding out what happened to that poor young man. Patricia went in front of Jeff and counted another 5 doors down, but this time the hotel room's door was wide open. It was covered in a horrible layer of cobwebs that Kendra really didn't want to touch, but she watched as Patricia used her flashlight to wind up the web. Kendra had to admit she was brave, a lot braver than she would have been. But there was something that was bothering her about all this. The killer had mentioned those rooms specifically, and they clearly knew the layout of the hotel, but why? Why mention any of it? What was so important about this hotel to the killer? Kendra had lived in London all her life, except a few months here and there because of work, and she had never heard of this hotel before. So it clearly wasn't important to the history of London, it wasn't important to the people, and it certainly wasn't important to the London economy. The hotel had no purpose to anyone but the killer. "Why? You okay, hun?" Patricia said, coming out the hotel room covered in cobwebs. "Yeah," Kendra said, going into the hotel room herself. It was so badly lit, with only a few rays of light coming in between the blanks covering the windows, but using her flashlight, Kendra looked around. She looked carefully at the double bed that was perfectly made. She looked in the dresser's drawers to see a family of spiders, and she even checked the bathroom. There was nothing. It was like each room was a perfect time capsule of the hotel when it shut down, of course, except for all the destruction that the weather and time had brought. Kendra still had no idea why the killer would even want to look in these rooms. When the hotel closed, Kendra asked. 1996, Jeff said. No real reason, expect customers stopped coming. Kendra cocked her head. Really? I can imagine the hotel looking great. It was on a main road. Plenty of foot traffic. But people stop? Patricia and Jeff shrugged. Kendra glided past them and stood in front of the door to room 110. She really wanted there to be a dead body in this room. Otherwise she would have to search every single room, and that would just be disgusting. Kendra gave the door a little push and heard hundreds of things just stop moving, and she shone her flashlight. Thousands of little eyes looked at her. They charged. Kendra screamed. She jumped to one side. Hundreds of rats ran out and down into the corridor, probably trying to run away from the bright lights. Kendra took a few deep, disgusting breaths and walked into the hotel room and gasped at what she saw. In all her years as a police officer, she had never seen a dead body as disfigured as this one. She shone her flashlight around the hotel room, and her mouth dropped as she stared at the blood-covered walls, random chunks of skin, muscles, and face covering the floor and furniture. This was disgusting. Even the body was too eaten to tell if it was a man, woman, or even human. Kendra simply walked back out of the hotel room and down the corridor. Call the crime scene techs. We have their body. A few hours later, after a nice hot shower at Jeff's place, Kendra and Patricia sat on Jeff's amazingly supportive and comfortable, a rare combination, armchairs with their aching legs rested on his coffee table and large mugs of coffee in their hands. After exploring that old, disgusting hotel, Kendra just wanted to be warm, comfortable, and not keep smelling musty poo or rotting flesh. That had just been awful and wrong. But Kendra might have hated the hotel and finding it, yet she felt amazing for finding such an old body, and now hopefully the young man's family, if that was the body they found, could get some closure. A few minutes later, Jeff walked into the living room and sat on his large sofa adjacent to Kendra, and smiled as he put his phone away. Kendra's stomach tightened, as she knew he had just spoken to someone important about the body. That was the crime scene unit, and the coroner. What remains of the dental records, DNA samples, and facial recognition have just confirmed this was the murder victim and the body we were searching for. Kendra smiled as her stomach relaxed, and she couldn't be prouder of her amazing friends. Brilliant. What happens now about the killer? Patricia asked. The coroner completed his autopsy also. He discovered stab wounds and even an uncorrupted DNA sample under the man's fingernails. Chances are it's the killer's, and the crime techs are running the sample now. Kendra couldn't believe how brilliantly this was all going, but there was still one question that was bothering her. Why did the killer choose the hotel? Kendra asked. Patricia smiled. I did some digging when you were in the shower, hon. Turns out the killer's father was the manager at the hotel for 2 years back in the 80s. The father used to bring the killer to work during the school holidays for work experience, and even let him live there for a while in the 90s. Kendra smiled. Let me guess. He lived in rooms 104, 109, and 110. Patricia nodded as Jeff's phone went off and he jumped up in the air, before he sat back down holding his knees. Want some pain relief cream? Patricia asked, clearly knowing where he kept it. Jeff nodded. Patricia went off. Did they get a match? Kendra asked. Yeah, Jeff said. They matched the DNA to the killer, and the stab wounds were close enough for the techs to link it to a weapon that was found on the killer when they arrested them. Kendra stood up and stretched her aching bones. That was brilliant, amazing news that had made her day. At least almost being attacked by rats hadn't been in vain. And most important, at least that young man's family could bury their son, brother, and boyfriend. Now she, with the help of amazing friends, had found him. As Kendra sat back down and took a large sip of her wonderfully bitter coffee, she only smiled. This was an amazing day, and at least the case of the young man's missing body could firmly be put to rest.
Welcome back everyone, it's me again, Connor Whiteley. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's story, because I flat out love writing, creating stories and sharing them with you. If you really enjoyed today's story, then please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the internet engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithms. And if you want to buy this short story or any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get them from your local library if you requested, and you can order the paperback copies from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. Lastly, if you want to support the channel on a one-off basis, then you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/ConnorWhiteley. Also, if you know anyone who would enjoy today's story, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the channel. So, thanks for watching the Whiteley Verse, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone.